My brother announced, "I'm moving into your guest house." I don't have a guest house. He meant my entire second property, a $680,000 home. Dad said, "Family helps family." I smiled, "Sure." Then I listed it for sale. When the realtor showed up with buyers while my brother was moving in, my name is Harper Caldwell, and I'm 36 years old. Last Saturday, in my own kitchen, my brother slapped a stack of Home Depot flyers on the counter and announced, loud enough for my dad to hear on speakerphone, "I'm moving into your guest house." I don't have a guest house. He meant my entire second property, a $680,000 home, and when my dad said, "Family helps family," I smiled and said, "Sure." Then I listed it for sale. When the realtor showed up with buyers while my brother was moving in, the look on his face still plays in my head like a highlight reel. Before I tell you what happened next, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story really resonates with you. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. To understand how we got there, I need to take you back to the beginning. I grew up in a small town outside Columbus, Ohio, in a two-story house that always smelled faintly like coffee and engine grease. My dad, Thomas Caldwell, was a mechanic who eventually opened his own shop. My mom, Sandra, worked the front desk at a dental office and stretched every dollar like it was taffy. On paper, we were fine. In real life, we ran on a system. My older brother, Logan, was the son, and the rest of us revolved around him. If Logan was happy, dinner was peaceful. If Logan was upset, everyone held their breath. Logan was 2 years older, loud, charming, the kind of kid teachers called a natural leader when what they meant was he talks his way out of consequences. I was the quiet one, the one who brought home A's without needing applause, the one who did chores without being asked, the one who learned early that being low maintenance was the only way to get any air in that house. The first scene that sticks with me happened when I was 10. I had a science fair project I'd worked on for weeks. A little homemade volcano that didn't just bubble, it erupted on command. I remember standing in the school gym, scanning the crowd for my parents, because my teacher told us our families would be proud. My mom showed up alone, breathless, still wearing her scrubs. She kissed my forehead, told me it looked great, and then her eyes flicked toward the door. "Dad couldn't come?" I asked. She hesitated like she was choosing between honesty and peace. "Logan got a flat tire on the way to baseball practice. Your dad's helping him. You understand, right?" I understood so well it almost hurt. I nodded, smiled, and acted like it didn't matter. It mattered. A few years later, when I was 13, I earned a partial scholarship to a summer debate camp. I was proud because it was the first time an adult outside my family said, "You've got something." The brochure showed kids in suits arguing about policy like miniature senators. I wanted it so badly I could taste it. Dad sat at the kitchen table with the brochure and barely looked up. "How much?" $2,000. "But the scholarship covers half," I said. "So it's $1,000. Logan strolled in mid-conversation and tossed his glove on the counter. "Dad, Coach says I need a new bat. Mine's dead." Dad's whole posture changed. Like his spine remembered its purpose. "We'll go Saturday." I waited. Mom stared at her coffee like it held the answer. "Dad," I tried again. "The camp? We'll see," he said, already mentally at the sporting goods store. "Logan needs the bat for tryouts." Logan smirked at me, not even cruelly, just casually like it was as natural as breathing. I didn't go to debate camp. The only person who ever seemed to notice was my mom's older sister, Aunt June. She didn't have kids, which meant she wasn't constantly triangulated in our house's hierarchy. She worked as a paralegal in the city and had a tidy little condo full of books and calm. June would pick me up sometimes for lunch, which really meant she was rescuing me from whatever Logan-centered chaos was happening. She'd take me to this diner with cracked red booths and let me order pie, even if it wasn't a special occasion. One day, after Dad forgot to come to my middle school awards ceremony, June sat across from me while I pushed fries around my plate. "He didn't mean it," I mumbled, because that's what I'd been trained to say. June's face was soft but firm. "Harper, I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to hold on to it. People don't always mean to hurt you, but they still make choices. Don't confuse intention with impact." I didn't fully get it then, but I remembered it. By the time I was 18, I'd become a kind of family employee. I handled what needed handling. I filled gaps. I stayed quiet so the house stayed stable. I got into Ohio State on scholarships and worked part-time at a copy shop. Logan got into a smaller college, no scholarship, and my parents took out loans like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Not because they could afford it, but because Logan needs a degree. When I mentioned law school, my dad laughed like I'd told a joke. "Lawyers are sharks," he said. "You want to be one of those?" I looked at him and realized he wasn't asking about my dream. He was commenting on a category of people. I swallowed it and said, "I'll figure it out." And I did. I figured out everything. That became my brand. After college, I worked in a small firm, ate ramen like it was a food group, and studied for the LSAT at night. I got into a decent law school and took on more loans because no one was writing checks for me. Logan, meanwhile, dropped out after 2 years, blamed the professors, blamed the workload, blamed the whole system, and moved back home. That's when the financial pattern really began. I was 25 when Dad called me and said, "We're a little short this month." "How short?" I asked, already opening my banking app. "Just a bit," he said. "Logan's truck needs repairs. He can't work without it." Logan had been between jobs for months, but sure, I sent $600, then $400, then $1,200 when the shop's insurance premium jumped. At first, it was framed as temporary, just until things stabilize, just until Logan gets on his feet. Logan never got on his feet because nobody made him. If you keep handing someone a cushion every time they fall, they don't learn how to stand. They learn how to fall with confidence. By 30, I was an associate attorney making decent money, not rich, but stable. I'd paid off some of my loans. I'd started saving. I bought my first house, a modest 3-bedroom in a good neighborhood. It felt like a trophy I'd earned in silence. 2 years later, I made a decision that would come back around like a boomerang. A client of ours, an older couple, wanted to sell a property they'd inherited. It was a small, well-kept home in a growing area, and the price was right because they wanted it gone quickly. I ran the numbers, looked at the market, and realized it could be a good long-term investment. I bought it as a second property. Nothing flashy. Just smart. I told myself it would be rental income, a cushion, maybe a retirement piece. It was in my name, with my mortgage, my insurance, my responsibility. When my family found out, Logan reacted like I'd just bought a yacht. "A second house?" he said, eyes wide like I'd committed a sin. Must be nice. Dad's tone was a mix of pride and expectation. "Our Harper," he said, "always the successful one." Mom asked, "So you're renting it out?" "Eventually," I said. "I'm fixing it up first." That was the wrong answer, because the moment you tell people you have something unused, they start mentally claiming it. Empty becomes available. Investment becomes extra. Over the next year, I put about $35,000 into that second place. New roof patches, updated electrical panel, fresh paint, refinished floors. I did it slowly, paying contractors, keeping receipts, keeping everything organized because that's how my brain works. I like paper trails, I like clarity, I like reality. Logan started calling it the guest house as a joke. "Harper's guest house," he'd say at family dinners, like he was a comedian. "Maybe I'll stay there one day if I need a break from Mom and Dad." Everyone laughed. I didn't. But I also didn't correct him. That was my old habit. Avoid conflict. Keep peace. Swallow irritation like it's vitamins. Then Dad's shop hit a rough patch. A big client stopped bringing fleet vehicles. Inflation squeezed people. Repairs got postponed. Dad called me more. "I just need help for a couple months," he said. It was always a couple months. The couple months became a steady drip. I paid their phone bill once because Mom cried about how stressful it was. I covered a $2,300 tax payment because Dad forgot to set aside enough. I wired Logan $900 because his rent was due and he'll be evicted. And I'll be honest, part of me did it because I didn't want to be the bad son. I didn't want the label. I didn't want the guilt. I didn't want the family narrative that I was selfish. But the other part, the deeper part, I kept doing it because I still wanted them to see me. I wanted my dad to say, "I'm proud of you," like he meant it. I wanted my mom to look at me with warmth, not need. I wanted Logan to respect me, not treat me like an ATM. At 35, I should have been past that, but family patterns don't evaporate just because you got older. They just get dressed up in adult clothes. The shift happened the summer before last. Logan started a business. That's what they called it. He bought a pressure washer and a trailer and decided he was going to do driveway cleaning. Which is fine, honest work, no shame there. But he didn't budget, didn't plan, didn't file his paperwork correctly, and within 3 months he was behind on everything. One afternoon, Dad called me with that tired voice. "Logan's in a bind," he said. I didn't even ask. I already knew. "I can't," I said. Silence. Dad cleared his throat. "What do you mean you can't?" "I mean, I've been sending money for years," I said, trying to keep my tone calm. "Lawyer calm? I've paid repairs, bills, rent. I'm tapped out. He needs to handle his own stuff." Dad's voice hardened. "You're doing well. You have 2 houses." There it was, the inventory list, the mental math of my life as a family resource. "They're not houses I own outright," I said. "They're mortgages. I have responsibilities." Dad scoffed. "Family helps family, Harper." And something in me went quiet. Not rage, not sadness, just clarity. Like my brain clicked into a new gear. "I have helped," I said. "I'm done being the only one who does." Dad hung up. For the next week, I got cold texts from Mom. "Your father is heartbroken. Logan is struggling, and you're making it worse. We didn't raise you to be like this. Like this. Like someone with boundaries." I called Aunt June because she was the only person who wouldn't guilt-trip me. She listened quietly, then said, "Harper, you're the family's emergency fund. They've normalized it. If you stop, they'll act like you stole something from them. You didn't. You just stopped giving away your future." "I feel like I'm being cruel," I admitted. June snorted. "You're being realistic. Cruel is expecting you to keep paying for grown men who refuse to budget." That conversation stuck with me, not because it was dramatic, but because it was plain, like a window being cleaned. After that, I started keeping records in a more intentional way. Not just receipts, but a spreadsheet of every transfer, every bill, every loan. Dates, amounts, notes. It wasn't petty, it was protection. June had been in law long enough to know how families rewrite history. The total, over about 10 years, was just over $78,000, not including the emotional costs. I never told them I was tracking it. I just quietly prepared. Then came the phone call that started this whole mess. 2 months ago, Logan called me out of nowhere, which alone was suspicious. "Bro," he said, too cheerful, "I got a plan." I leaned back in my office chair, already bracing. "What kind of plan?" "I'm getting back on my feet," he said. "I'm going to move into your guest house for a while. Just a year, maybe less. No rent. I'll fix stuff up. It'll be good." I blinked. "My what?" "Your guest house," he repeated, like I was slow. "The extra place. The second property. That's not a guest house," I said. "That's a house." He laughed. "Same thing." "No," I said, sharper now. "It's my investment property. It's not available." His tone changed instantly. The charm dropped. "Harper, don't be like that. I need a fresh start." "You need to rent an apartment like everyone else," I said. "Or live with Mom and Dad." He exhaled hard. "Mom and Dad are driving me insane. And they said you'd be cool about it." That line made my skin go cold, they said. As in, they discussed my property like it was already approved. Like I was a formality. "I'm not cool about it," I said. "No." Logan muttered something under his breath, then said, "Fine, I'll talk to Dad." The next day, Dad called me, not to ask, to inform. "Logan's moving into your guest house," he said, like he was telling me the weather. "I don't have a guest house," I replied. Dad sighed like I was being difficult for sport. "Harper, don't play semantics. You have a second property. Your brother needs a place. Family helps family." I stared at the wall behind my desk, the framed diploma, the bar admission certificate, my life in paper, my life built from scratch. "Dad," I said slowly, "that property is mine. It has a mortgage. It's not a free asset." "You can afford it," Dad snapped. "You're a lawyer." "You're always fine." I could hear Logan in the background like he was pacing, waiting for the result. And here's where my old self would have argued, would have tried to reason, would have begged them to understand, would have offered a compromise that still cost me something. But I'd been quietly growing a new self, the kind that hears a boundary being ignored, and doesn't waste energy screaming into the wind. So I took a breath and said, "Sure, family helps family." Dad's tone softened immediately, satisfied. "That's my boy," Logan whooped in the background. I kept my voice pleasant. "Tell him to coordinate with me on timing." "We'll handle it," Dad said. "He's moving this weekend." "Great," I said, and hung up. Then I called my realtor. Her name was Elise, and she'd sold me my primary house years ago. She was sharp, calm, and didn't ask dumb questions. "I want to list my second property," I told her. She paused. "The one you've been renovating?" "Yep," I said. "As soon as possible." Elise didn't press. She just asked, "Is it tenant occupied?" "Not yet," I said. "But someone thinks it will be." There was a beat of silence. Then she said, "Okay, I can be there tomorrow for photos and staging recommendations." By the end of that week, my house was listed at a price that reflected the market and the upgrades. It got attention fast. Inventory was low. People were hungry. I didn't tell my family. Not out of spite, out of practicality. You don't negotiate with people who don't believe you have rights. I did, however, take one step that felt both petty and necessary. I texted Logan, "Hey, I'm going to be at the property Saturday at 10 a.m. Please don't move anything in until I get there." He responded with a thumbs up emoji and, "Relax, bro, relax," like I was the one being unreasonable. That Friday night, Aunt June came over to my house with a bottle of cheap wine and a folder. "You're doing the right thing," she said, like it was a simple fact. "I feel like I'm about to detonate a bomb," I admitted. June took a sip and nodded. "Sometimes the bomb is already there. You're just refusing to stand on it." She handed me the folder. Inside were printouts, my spreadsheet totals, copies of bank transfers, screenshots of texts where they asked for money. And one thing I hadn't even thought of, an email from my dad from years ago saying, "Thanks for covering Logan's rent. We'll pay you back when he's stable." June tapped that line with her finger. This is gold, because it shows they knew it was a loan, not a gift. "I never expected them to pay me back," I said. "You don't have to," June replied. "It's about narrative. When they say you never helped, you can show receipts." I stared at the folder and felt a strange calm settle in my chest. Prepared, grounded. Saturday morning, I drove to the second property with coffee in one hand and my phone in the other. Elise had texted me that she had 2 showings lined up that day, both serious buyers, and she'd be bringing them by at noon. At 9:40 a.m., my phone rang. Logan. "Yo," he said. "We're here." "We?" I asked. "Me and Dad," he said, like that was normal. "We're unloading." My grip tightened on the steering wheel. "I told you not to move anything until I got there." He laughed. "Bro, it's fine. We're just putting some stuff in the garage." I didn't yell. I didn't swear. I simply said, "Stop. I'll be there in 10. When I pulled up, I saw Dad's truck parked crooked in the driveway, Logan's beat-up SUV behind it, and Logan walking out of the garage with a box in his arms like he owned the place. Dad stood by the front steps, arms crossed, watching like a supervisor. Logan saw me and grinned. "Home sweet home," he said. I got out slowly, set my coffee on the hood of my car, and walked up. "What are you doing?" I asked, calm. "Moving in," Logan said, like we hadn't discussed it. Dad said it's settled. Dad stepped forward. "Harper, don't start. We're here. He needs a place. It's temporary." I looked at Dad. Really looked. The man who had taught me to change a tire, who had also taught me that Logan's needs came first. I said, "Sure," I replied. Dad's shoulders relaxed like he thought he'd won. I smiled politely, and I meant it. Family helps family. Logan snorted. "See? Told you." Then I pulled out my phone, opened the listing, and turned it around so they could see the screen. Elise's professional photos. The price. The status. Active. Scheduled showings. Logan's grin froze. Dad's brows pulled together. "What is that?" Dad asked. "That," I said, still calm, "is the house listed for sale." Logan stared like the words weren't forming correctly in his brain. "You can't sell it. I'm moving in." I tilted my head. "You can't move into a house that's for sale." Dad's face flushed red. "Harper, what the hell are you doing?" "I'm selling my second property," I said, as if explaining the obvious. "I bought it. I improved it." I'm choosing to liquidate it. Dad stepped closer, jaw tight. You said yes. I said family helps family, I replied. And I am helping. I'm helping by not enabling a grown man to squat in my investment property. Logan's voice shot up. Squat? I'm your brother. Exactly, I said. And you don't pay rent. You don't sign leases. You don't take responsibility. So yes, if you move in without a contract, that's squatting. Dad pointed at me like I was a misbehaving teenager. You're being dramatic. You're trying to embarrass us. I didn't rise to it. I simply looked at the boxes piled in the garage. How much of your stuff is here? I asked Logan. He hesitated. Just some. Take it out, I said. Logan's mouth fell open. Are you serious? Completely, I said. This house has showings today. You can't have your laundry and broken furniture in the garage. Dad's voice went low and dangerous. Harper, this is cruel. I nodded slowly. Cruel is deciding my property belongs to you and your golden child. Dad flinched at the phrase. Golden child. The label nobody wanted spoken aloud. Logan's face twisted. Oh my God, you're doing that therapy talk thing. You always think you're better than everyone because you're a lawyer. I let that sit for a second. Then I said, I don't think I'm better. I think I'm tired. At 11:58 a.m., Elise's car pulled up. Behind her, a couple in a clean SUV, followed by another car with a young family. I watched Dad and Logan notice them, watched the reality land. Elise walked up with her professional smile. Hi, Harper, she said, then glanced at Dad and Logan. Are these occupants? No, I said. They're leaving. Logan's face went bright red. He hissed. You're seriously doing this right now? I lowered my voice so Elise and the buyers couldn't hear. Yes, and you're going to act normal, or I'm calling the police to remove you from my property. Dad's eyes widened. You wouldn't. I met his gaze. Try me. There was something in my tone, maybe the years of courtroom calm, that finally made him understand I wasn't bluffing. Logan started grabbing boxes, slamming them into the back of his SUV with more force than necessary. Dad hovered, torn between defending him and recognizing the audience. He hated an audience unless it was praising Logan. Elise began the showing like nothing was happening. She chatted about square footage, upgrades, the neighborhood. I walked behind, answering questions, pointing out the new flooring, the updated panel. Logan and Dad moved like angry ghosts in the background, hauling out their entitled little fantasy one box at a time. At one point, the young couple asked, So are you selling because you're moving? I smiled. I'm selling because it's time. I'm simplifying. That was the truth. I wasn't selling out of revenge. I was selling out of clarity. I didn't want my future wrapped up in something my family could keep trying to claim. When the buyers left, Elise lingered on the porch with me. You okay? She asked quietly. I exhaled. I'm fine. She glanced at Logan's SUV, now packed and idling. Those weren't tenants, were they? No, I said. They were a misunderstanding. Elise gave me a look that said she understood more than I'd said. Well, the showing went well. They seemed interested. Good, I said. Logan stormed over, face tight. So you're just selling it out from under me? I didn't flinch. It was never yours. Dad followed, looking older than he had an hour ago. Harper, you're tearing the family apart. I let out a small laugh. Not amused, just tired. No, Dad. I'm refusing to be the family's safety net while Logan uses it like a trampoline. Logan jabbed a finger toward me. You think you're teaching me a lesson? I'm not your teacher. I said, I'm your brother, and I'm done. Dad's voice cracked with anger and something like fear. Where is he supposed to go? I shrugged. He can stay with you. He can rent a place. He can get a roommate. He can do what every adult does when they need housing. Logan scoffed. Easy for you to say. I nodded. It was never easy for me. I just did it anyway. For a second, no one spoke. The silence was thick, like the moment right before a verdict. Then Dad said softer, after everything we've done for you. And there it was, the guilt hook, the line they always used when they were losing. I opened Aunt June's folder from my bag and pulled out the spreadsheet printout. I didn't wave it dramatically, I just held it up. Do you want to talk about everything? I asked, calm. Because I can. Dad's eyes flicked to the paper, and I saw him recognize my handwriting, the neat columns, the dates, evidence, reality. Logan's voice wavered, suddenly less confident. You kept track? Yes, I said. Because you don't. Dad swallowed. Harper, I'm not asking for repayment, I said. I'm asking for respect. And if you can't give that, you don't get access to my assets. Logan spat. This is unbelievable. Then climbed into his SUV and slammed the door so hard the whole car shook. Dad stood there, hands on his hips, looking like the world had betrayed him. Your mother is going to be devastated. I nodded once. She can call me, but she's not going to scream at me. If she does, I'll hang up. Dad stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. I didn't wait for him to understand. I walked back into the house, locked the door, and waited while they drove away. That afternoon, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Mom called first. I answered because I wanted to be done with hiding. Her voice was already sharp. Harper, what did you do? I listed the property, I said. How could you embarrass your brother like that, she demanded. In front of strangers. I kept my tone even. He embarrassed himself by trying to move into a house he doesn't own. Mom's breath hitched like she was offended by the concept of ownership. You're being selfish. I'm being responsible, I corrected. There's a difference. She started crying, not soft crying, but the kind that sounded like performance. Your father is so hurt. Logan is spiraling. Why are you doing this to us? I didn't yell. I didn't defend. I just said, I'm not doing anything to you. I'm making a decision about my property. You always have to be in control, she snapped through the tears. I almost laughed. Because yes, I did. Because if I wasn't in control, someone else would control me. I'm going to say this once. I told her, I will not house Logan. I will not fund Logan. If you and Dad want to help him, that's your choice. But I'm done. Mom went cold. So that's it? You're abandoning family. I paused. Family doesn't mean I get used until there's nothing left. If that's what you think family is, you can keep it. Then I hung up. The next week was a blur of guilt trips. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly found my number. An uncle left a voicemail about respecting your parents. A family friend said I was cold and money obsessed, which was funny because I was the one who'd been giving money away. Each time I repeated the same line, like a legal script. This is between me and my parents. I'm not discussing it. If you have concerns, talk to them. After that, I stopped answering. Aunt June called every evening for 5 minutes. You holding? Yeah. Good. Boundaries feel like cruelty to people who benefited from your lack of them. 2 weeks after listing, Elise called. We have an offer. Strong. Only inspection. Close in 30 days. My stomach flipped. Relief, not fear. Take it, I said. The closing process got uglier before it got quiet. A few days later, Dad showed up unannounced, standing on my porch like he still expected to be let in. I opened the door but didn't invite him inside. Your mother hasn't slept, he said. I'm sorry she's upset. Logan had to sign a lease. You know how hard that was for him. That's adulthood, I said. He exhaled, weaker than usual. You really won't change your mind? No. You've changed, Harper. I've grown, I said. You just don't like the direction. I just wanted the family to stay together. I want that too, I told him. Softer. But together doesn't mean I'm the one holding everyone up. He swallowed. Your brother thinks you hate him. I don't hate him. I hate what he's been allowed to become. Dad left with no apology, no argument, just silence. Inspection passed. Appraisal held. On closing day, I signed with a steady hand and, when the wire hit, I paid off the mortgage, set aside taxes, and moved the rest where it belonged. Quiet, clean, mine. A week later, Logan texted, need help with deposit, $1,500. I'll pay you back. The old reflex rose, then I typed, no, good luck. Angry emojis. Unbelievable. I didn't answer. Mom sent a long message about me punishing everyone. I didn't answer that either. Over time, the noise died because the old lever didn't move me anymore. Now I meet my parents in public, keep it polite, and repeat, I'm not discussing finances. Sunday dinners with Aunt June became my reset. No drama, just calm. And for the first time in a long time, my peace felt earned.